There's a lot of different materials to be gathered out in the land of the morning light. Some can be used for a huge amount of money, while others can be used to craft things easier and cheaply. Welcome back to the channel that tries to life skill but fails while doing it. My name is Teddy, and today I'll be showing you all the gatherable locations here on the land of the morning light. This is not going to be a rotation guide or a guide on how to make the most money, so please don't get angry in the comments down below. I will also be posting chapter links so that you guys can quickly find which vicinity that you guys want to go to. Also, one more thing, I will provide a link to the map on screen to help you figure out where to get the strange and beautiful herbs with how many there are and just all the people that were trying to get them. I wasn't able to record all the locations, and posting a map is just the easier option. With all of that out of the way, don't forget to subscribe, turn on all notifications, hit that like button and all that other YouTuber stuff that we're supposed to say, and let's just stop wasting time and let's get into all the gathering locations for the land of the morning light. Once you step foot onto the land of the morning light, gathering can be done here in the Nampo Region village. From lumber to cooking ingredients, it's amazing to see what's just laying around. Moving through the village, we're able to find persimmon trees scattered all around. They're hard to miss with the orange fruit hanging from the leaves, but don't get confused. Pine can be gathered all around the island, including Nampo. Running down the road a little has some mewa. These can be found dotted around the village, but there's more in other locations, so don't worry if you're trying to look for the iridescent mewa rare drop. If trees aren't your thing, the scarlet rosebay and pink rosebay can be gathered around the village, with the other locations having more. Looking to the left has a couple wild berry bushes, but nothing worth trying to gather to use for cooking or selling. Wild herbs can be found leaving the village, but not much. There is a lone jujube tree here if you're still looking for the knowledge. Moving through the village more, we have the goosefoot that can be found here in the corners, like outside the inn with little Auntie Moodle, the corner across from the trade manager. Further down the road, heading out to Nampo, right at the entrance of Nampo Shipyard. And lastly, goosefoot can be found south of the storage manager here in these bushes. Perilla can easily be found all around Nampo's Moodle village, tucked away in small pockets of grass. Some can be found across the road from Little Auntie Moodle between the pine trees here, running here to the corner in front of the seed vendor, behind the trade manager here, and some here in the corner. More can also be found right here behind the storage manager, and finally, some perilla can be found just before the entrance to the shipyard. Running up to Donghae office has some materials we can gather. There's a couple of patches of yellow flowers that can be found running up to the office, with more just outside the office. Audria can be found here in the yellow flowers too. Pine trees can also be found here along with the mewa outside of the office road. And after getting up to the office, there is a huge patch of yellow flowers here to add to the others along the road and around the whole office. There's really nothing notable here in Nampo other than the yellow flowers and the maple that are dotted around. There are a lot of flowers if you're looking for some. I did, however, notice that not all the flowers and trees here can be gathered, or it might just have been gathered. If you know they can be, let me know down in the comments below. I've checked on 2 channels already, and I'm not sure, and I don't just want to assume. Heading up out the village towards Nampo Gate, we do have more yellow flowers that can be gathered, and yes, they can be gathered. This can be counted as being in the village, but at the same time also considered as Nampo, but alongside of the road we can find a little farm here. We have 2 plots of normal cabbage and 2 potatoes, not to mention the cocoa for a quick bird meat. More perilla can be found in the area. There's also jujube trees here too, but I just buy them from a fruit vendor on the island. Heading towards Nampo Gate has a huge amount of yellow flower patches all around, making this a nice place to gather a good amount of yellow flowers. Maple trees can also be found dotted amongst the pine trees here too, but there's not a lot to gather thousands at a time. Heading out towards Shiminde Forest has a nice patch of tiger flowers here. This is a quick and easy solution for those who are bagging tiger flower out in the Moodle village for trading. Now, once we finally get into the Shiminde Forest, there's a couple things that can mainly be gathered here. The main gathering node here are the bamboo nodes all around the forest. These can be found by the small green stalks with the glowing green light sitting on top. Just in case you need more bird meat, there are cocoa that can be butchered, but I suggest sticking to sniper hunting for the more added chances of getting a crystal. Goosefoot can also be found alongside the road inside the forest too, for those needing to make the Moodle Gukbap. Another great spot is over here just off the road leading into the forest. More can be found amongst the village here. Heading more into the forest, we have lunar hare that can be found in the trees here. They spawn back quickly, making this a great spot to pick up low value meat to cook with. Or can be found scattered around the bamboo, but there are other places with more, or just sniper hunting earns more. There's more berry bushes here along the coastline if the others are too far. The last thing that can be gathered out here in the forest is the huge patch of Audrey that can be found here just before crossing the bridge into the Solji forest. Coming down from the forest to Ojikon has some perilla that can be gathered, but the main focus of this area are the Youngji mushrooms that can be found hidden along the rocks here and further towards the rock wall here. Those aren't the only mushrooms in the area. Running down to the water has some more hidden in these rocks. Anji County has some good spots to gather, like the goosefoot along the road leading to the county. At the very top here are the wild berries that can be gathered if you're looking for more. These do extend all the way down to the water side. Another great cooking ingredient we can gather out here are the deer on this island, which I'm now dubbing Deer Island. Much like the lunar hare, these do respawn extremely quick. Now, crossing into the bridge into the Solji forest has a small patch of boar that can be butchered. Some perilla can be found down path into Oldo village. Solgije forest does have some dry pine for dead tree essence that can be found along the road here right before entering Dokubi forest. There's not really much other than the water that can be collected and the wild herbs that can be found along the road leading down into the Dokubi forest. We do have some dry pine that can be found and a couple birch trees scattered around, and of course, we have more pine trees. I was able to find one acacia tree here in the forest, but it is clipped into a shrine and will require the mouse to move option to be enabled. Running down to the Gowan Plateau, you'll quickly notice the massive amount of reeds that can be gathered here. There are some maple, pine, birch, and dry pine here for lumbering too. If you see my Land of the Morning Light gathering guide, you'll know all about the cocoa that can be found here in the plateau, and the lunar hare that can be found here in the reeds further up. Some foxes can also be found up here in the Gowan Plateau. For those needing birch sap or lumbering, the Golden Pig Cave has a nice place for birch, and there's still some further into the camp. Sky blue flowers can be found here along the road, with more leading into the camp, and lastly can be seen down here on the southern road. More deer can be found here across the sky blue flowers if Deer Island is too far or another player is already there. Dry Branch Village has some violet flowers that can be gathered here alongside the road if yellow flowers aren't your thing. We also have potatoes that can be gathered from a small farm plot here, and pumpkins right next to it. Heading into Byeot County, we have the violet flowers that can be gathered here along the hill between Dry Branch and Byeot. There's a lot up here, but Kama still might be the best place for picking flowers. More wild herbs, yellow flowers, and Audria can be found here. There's also pine and maple here in the area. Byeot County is a great place for maple, not to mention has a small spot to collect herbs here. At the start of Dalbeol Village, you will notice the massive field of pink and scarlet rosebay. With these flowers, there's the most meiwa we can find in one area on both sides of the road leading into the village. 2 jujube trees can be found just after the town guards here. Inside the village, though, we have goosefoot that can be found here. More can be found in front of the furniture dealer and behind the blacksmith here. Of course, persimmon, meiwa, and pine trees are dotted around the houses. On the way out the village, we can find a small amount of perilla across from the central market, and lastly, below this meiwa tree here. There's a small farm here which has a tiny field of napa cabbage, and the most perilla we can find in one spot. Or can be found up the road further here leading up to the plateau and along this road here. Lastly, some Youngji mushrooms can be found with some strange and beautiful herbs here at this cave. Yewu Pass is a perfect place for all the sky blue and violet flowers with just how much there are. A small patch of boar can be found tucked away up here, but there is a main spot for boar here with the sky blue and violet flowers. Yewu Cave is the only spot to gather viola just before getting to Gumiho. Honglim Base is a great spot for gathering dry pine, though it is not the best, it does have a decent amount to gather. There's also the most Audrey you can find out here along the road with some sky blue flowers dotted in there. Byeot County has a lot to gather out here with so much farmland. Rice is going to be the clear gathering point out here with having almost around 10 fields. Napa cabbage and radish are next to the storage keeper here. Potato and corn can be found in minor fields around here along with 3 citron orchards. We do have a tiny plot of sweet potatoes here alongside a plot of tomatoes. Pink and scarlet rosebay can be gathered in these huge flower fields that extend all the way up to the pier. A couple feldspar can be mined near the giant tree, and even a small amount of reeds can be found out here in the Byeot County. As for Nampo Pass, much like the other areas, we can gather yellow and Audrey flowers. Bari Forest is another great place for dry pine, maple, and birch. Wild herbs are a little easier to find out here too if you're still looking for some. The Bari Forest has another little gem out here with the moss trees. Some cedar trees too can be found heading up to the Bari's Black Shrine. Littered around the area, we can also find feldspar to gather. This forest has some fir trees hitting around the trees too if you keep your eyes peeled. And if you're still looking for ginkgo, a tree can be found here. Trees aren't the only thing Bari Forest has. Some boars can be found here on the side of the road. Cocoa can also be found here in the forest too if you're still looking for bird meat. Over at Barry's home, I'm not going to bother pronouncing that, we do have a tiny amount of perla that can be found here. There's not really much different to gather out here at the Bambui Gate other than the 3 Yunji mushrooms. The first spot is here. Patch can also be found just before the gate on the side of the road here, and another near the gateway here. Bambui Valley is a great place to find tiger flower almost everywhere in the area. Like here, for example, some can be found heading down to the river. More tiger flower can be found along the water and in the center island where seals can also be found to be butchered. There's plenty of maple around here just in case you were looking for more. And we can also find 3 jujube trees out here. Running out to the lake over here has a cluster of deer too if you're still looking for some. Lastly, and one of the most shocking but yet sad things that we can gather is what's left of the coral from the old port rat that can be found here at Byeot Island. Yeah, I know, I messed that up. Coral and other shellfish can be found under the water here. I hope this helps you start gathering easier out on the land of the morning light. I know it can be confusing with trying to track down all the materials, having to use Google and look at screenshots. While a lot of the main materials are easy to find, I realized that there was a lot of spots that were a little harder to get to and a little bit less known. Again, I would have shown off all the locations for the strange and beautiful herbs, but with how many there are and all the other players that are trying to get it, I felt as though it'd be a lot easier to go ahead and post up a map showing you guys where everything is, which can be found down in the description below. But if you want to see more Black Desert content, like leveling those life skills faster or just wanting to make more money, click this video here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Keep gathering out there.